Okay, so hey everybody. Sorry there was no video last week. I actually feel a little bit bad, but I think I've said this before, like back in the winter, but Chris and I are youth counselors for the 13 through 17-year-olds at the Mount Community. So we basically have like a mini summer program where we do work projects with them. We take them on little outings. Next week, actually, we are planning on going camping with them up in northern New York, like up by Lake George area. So that'll be some outdoor camping and sleeping bags and tents. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, but that's why we've been pretty busy. So no video last week, but video this week. So I want to talk a little bit today about conflict in community, which I'm sure you're going to be really interested in. Anyway, so it's been really exciting recently to welcome back visitors into our communities after a whole year of hardly seeing anybody, thanks to COVID, of course. So we have people coming to visit from anywhere for a few hours to a week or two, several days. I spoke a couple weeks ago about Bruderhof for a day, which has been fun. Anyway, anyone staying with us for like a longer stretch of time will take part in community life, which means, joining in the work, whatever department needs help, taking part in our communal meals, gatherings, spending time with different families in their homes. Often toward the end of a visit, I've heard people say, your community is so beautiful and everyone was so nice and friendly, and or people who haven't even visited yet, and they'll say something like, your website or your Instagram feed is gorgeous and all those great pictures of happy people. And then people wonder, is it really like that? Oh, and also I've gotten a lot of comments on my channel, Laura, are you always so happy? And I always want to say that if you stayed for long enough, you find out pretty fast that it's not always like that. And no, don't manage to be happy the whole time, although I do try. I think it's natural that those of us who live here, we want to make people feel welcome by being kind and friendly, and so we'll post nice photos on social media, but we're no different from anyone else in wanting to represent in the best way what our communities are like. But it should come as no surprise that people at the Bruderhof do have misunderstandings and interpersonal difficulties and conflicts. And there are like people that just don't get along. Like there are people that I just don't always get along with. And when that happens to me, I always think of what C.S. Lewis writes. He says, don't worry about whether you love your neighbor, act as if you did. So that doesn't mean that it's okay to just accept not getting along, like to be annoyed at someone for days on end or hold a grudge against them, while at the same time living and working side by side and claiming to be disciples of Christ. So anytime I feel that there is something between me and another person, I need to speak directly to him or her and not to like go to someone else and talk about it, but rather go straight to that person and figure it out. Difficult, but I found great value and reward in it. I've always thought that there are kind of two kinds of conflicts. One is like this big thunderstorm where you have a big blowout and you get all worked up and maybe you shout a bit and say things that aren't Christian. Yes, maybe even use some bad words, even if that is not good. But then when the dust has settled, and hopefully that happens before too much time passes, Jesus did instruct us to not let the sun go down on our anger. And you kind of like circle back and say, you were right, and I'm sorry that I got upset, and I said some things that I regret, but here's where I'm coming from, and then you explain your side and kind of come in humility. So in my experience, whenever I do that, I find that in the end, I actually feel like I've strengthened my relationship with that person. I don't particularly enjoy having arguments, but that's something, but sometimes it's the most honest thing to do. And it certainly clears the air, which you kind of need to do if you're trying to live in community, or even if you're not trying to live in community. Okay, so then the second kind of conflict, which is actually the more dangerous kind, I think, and it's more subtle, is more like an undercurrent, and it's really destructive if it's not addressed. And that happens when I allow petty grudges of everyday life to build up. Something without, like if something happens that I don't even notice at first. Okay, so I'll explain with like an example. So I live in a house with huge holes, and I and my neighbors are responsible for getting those holes cleaned. And sometimes I'll notice, I cleaned the hole last week, so it's your turn this week. And then you can kind of get like vibes or undercurrents. And, yes, we could make a big schedule, which actually maybe we should just do like a little sign-up list. But when there's like these undercurrents and kind of feelings toward each other, and of course this happens the fastest when it's someone who I'm close to, like my neighbors or family or friends or coworkers, and they know me the best probably, and they know all my strengths and my weaknesses and my little character quirks. Anyway, but I would say that it's probably easier to deal with someone on the other side of the world who might have hurt me, like someone who made like a snarky or mean comment on one of my videos that I worked really hard on, than to sort out a misunderstanding or hurt or just even an annoyance with someone who I see every day, like my neighbors and who I know and love. But just to circle all around and bring it all together, we have to remember Jesus' teaching and example of forgiveness doesn't give us the option to stay angry at others or to hold grudges. We're simply not allowed to hate. There's this story from the Gospels where Peter asked Jesus how often he should forgive someone who sins against him. And Peter probably thought he was all like generous, and he said, should we forgive 7 times? And then Jesus replies, not 7 times, but 70 times 7, which is a lot. I kind of have this funny memory from when I was young. I'm not sure how old I was, probably like 3rd grade, but just old enough to know about like multiplication tables. And someone told me that story from the Bible, and it may have been like one of these Sunday morning meetings. And I remember trying to work it out in my head what 70 times 7 actually equals, and thinking to myself, well, 490 isn't a huge number. I mean, it's not like a million or anything. So, but as we all know, forgiving someone is hard work. And if I manage to do it even once a day, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. Never mind the other 490 times. Anyway, so those are just my thoughts, and I don't know. It's not easy to forgive, but it's definitely worth it, and your heart is happier, and which then makes the people around you happier. So it's totally worth it. Anyway, I'll see you all next week, and keep enjoying your summer, and I'm going to enjoy my coffee now. Bye.